Hello and welcome back to the 2U Mystery Tour. I'm Alex.
I'm Niku.
And what am I solving today?
So today you're going to try and solve the case of the Yuba County Five, which is kind of a funny name, but it's named after a county in California called Yuba County, and it's 5 because it's about 5 boys. Or 5 guys, I should say. So this case happens in 1978, back in the olden times.
The olden days.
Olden days. I actually feel like I have a lot of cases from a long time ago, and I feel like it's because people weren't good at like investigating things.
Technology as well.
Yeah, like as good as they are now, like testing, and we weren't as tracked before.
Yes.
Like your phone pings off of everywhere.
You also didn't have a phone that had a camera. Everyone and anything, any drama that happens, there's always a camera. There's someone's video.
But I don't think people didn't have even mobile phones until the 90s.
That's what I mean. That's why so much stuff won't be solved.
Next week's case is a more modern day case. It's in the 2000s but we'll have to wait for that next time. But so anyway, this is about a group of 5 boys. Now they are referred to as boys, but they are actually men. Their ages between 24 and 32. The reason why everyone keeps calling them boys is because they've all got some sort of learning disability. So some mental challenges basically. So I'm gonna introduce the 5 of them. I think it would be good to if you know a little bit about every single one.
Some background on them.
Yeah. So first one is Ted. He's the oldest one, and he's 32. He's very, very friendly. Like one of those people who kind of goes up to like strangers and says hello and like waves at people. So friendly. He did have an intellectual disability, and he worked as a dishwasher. But he had to quit because the employees were taking advantage of him, getting him to buy them things and stuff. Yeah. But all of these boys, by the way, are really high functioning, and they just have some challenges, basically. Second boy is Jackie. He's the youngest one. He's 24, and he was probably the most severely challenged out of the 5. He had a lot of difficulty kind of learning things, and he wasn't very quick at thinking, especially in working settings, and he couldn't read or write or use a phone, and he didn't like being away from home or away from his mom. And he was really good friends with Ted. He was the closest to Ted, obviously the oldest one. And then there's Will, or Bill, and he's 28. Really nice kind of.
Wait, which one? Will or Bill?
Well, we can call him Bill. Okay, we'll call him Bill or Billy.
No, let's call him Will.
Okay, we'll call him Will. So Will, he's 28. Really nice guy. Just such a pure soul, innocent. So generous, and he volunteered at mental health institutions, and he was also really religious as well. But he wanted to help people, who were struggling, and he liked to spread his faith as well, quite Christian and things like that. And then we have, so obviously I told you Ted, Jackie, and Bill so far. Will. Yeah. Now Jack. So this is he's 30 years old. He's an ex-army veteran. He previously served in Vietnam. He had quite a low IQ, and he also had a mental disability and some intellectual problems as well. But he was able to drive, so pretty high functioning. They're all high functioning, and he drove a 1967 turquoise Mercy Montega. Do you know what that car is? Montega. It's like a proper old school car.
Yeah. There's very low. It's very low to the floor and very thin. Thin's not the right word. Squished.
Yeah, really long, front. I think it's got it's like a proper 70s. But it's 67.
I can always get behind a turquoise car.
Yeah, it's bright blue-green, bright car. And this car was his pride and joy. He didn't let anyone drive it apart from him. He was obsessed with this car, and it's put a pin on that. He doesn't let anyone else drive it.
Cool.
So then lastly lastly, we have Gary. So he's a bit different from the rest because he's the only one who doesn't have an intellectual disability.
Okay.
He's 25 and he works part-time for his dad as a gardener. And he used to also serve in the army. And he was actually discharged because of a psychiatric issue. So at 20, he was put on medication for paranoia, schizophrenia. But he was completely stable at the time of this. He'd been stable for years and he was taking his medication. He's super high functioning. But he's the only one who doesn't have like some sort of, intellectual difficulty. Yeah. But he's in the group because he kind of, has schizophrenia and he's been diagnosed with it and stuff. And he gets on really well with the guys and they're all really good friends. So he hangs out with them. They're kind of like best friends, the 5 of them, and they're referred to as the boys by all their family and stuff. Yeah. So the way they met, they were all part of a program called the Gateway Project, and it's a project for people in the community in Yuba County who had disabilities, and they played basketball. They played basketball together. They were in a basketball team, and they were big fans of basketball, like watching it and going to games. Yeah. So this is how kind of the event comes around. So the 5 of them go to a basketball game in a town called Chico. Have you heard of Chico in California?
No, I'm not.
So it's a town called, it's around half an hour away from Yuba County. So it's half an hour drive, and they drive in Jack's car. So they go to the game. Game goes really well. Their team actually wins. The
team they're supporting.
Yeah, the team that they're supporting. And obviously they all live at home. They're all very like kind of reliant on their parents. Yeah. And so they're reported as to have not come home really quickly because So they don't come home after this game, and it's very, very unusual because they have such scheduled lives. They're reliant on their mom and dad, and many of them hate the outdoors. They don't like being away from home.
Yeah, okay.
They don't like being away from their comfort. Yeah. So it's all very unusual. So straight away, the police are called, and it's like, this is unusual. And there's an alert that's been called out asking for info and if there's any sightings being seen. So there is like tips that come in. So one person calls and says that he saw them in a convenience store in Chico where they were for the basketball game. And after the game, around 10 p.m., he saw them buying junk food and candy bars, chocolate, crisps, all sorts of like fun stuff. I'm guessing after the game they go to this convenience store to like buy heaps of sweets for the drive home or something like that because they're all so excited that their team won. And then another caller says that it's a woman. So this all happened. They go missing on Friday, and a woman calls and she says that she saw them on the Saturday, the next day, and they were in a red pickup truck. So this is a complete different car, and 2 of them came into her shop to make a call, and then the others they were in the phone booth.
So they're all currently they've both times they've been seen all together.
Yeah, like they're all together. But at this point, this woman calling, they go into her shop. 2 of them come in, and 2 of them go into the phone booth to make a call, and then the rest of them stay in this pickup truck. And the weird thing is that her store is completely off course to where the boys needed to go. It's not in Chico or in Yuba County or on the way. It's like completely like in a different place, like way up north. And then the third kind of tip that comes in, really interesting. It's a guy called Joe.
We know how we feel about
Joe. And he saw them when he was driving. So if you think about, like, let's think of a map, right? So there's Yuba County.
Right.
And then go straight on to Chico, right? So this is a straight line. And then kind of make a triangle. So there's the mountains up north, maybe 2 hours away.
Okay.
So this guy Joe was driving up these mountains way off the course, right? And he saw them when he was driving up the mountains, and his car gets stuck in the snow. This place is like super snowy. Like, even though it's California, it's like north of California, so it does get cold up there.
Yeah, it's really high altitude as well.
Yeah, it's pretty high altitudes, and his car gets stuck in the snow, and he's like, okay, I need to go out and push my car out. And while he's trying to push his car out, he has a heart attack, and he's like, oh wow. So he gets back into his car, and he has the car running for a couple of hours with the heat on full blast to keep him warm.
But he has a heart attack and he just chills in the car.
Yeah, he just sits in the car, like deep breathing with the heat on and the engine running, and he sits there for a couple of hours, and then after a couple of hours, he starts to hear like a whistling sound, and he's like, what? It's like a whistling sound coming down from the mountain. So he gets out of the car again.
Oh, is it an avalanche?
And well, no, he gets out of the car to see what this whistling is. And about 40 meters away, he sees headlights and a group of men with a woman who's holding a baby. And they're all like outside the car, and the car is like with the lights on, the doors open, and they're all like chilling outside the car. And he's like, okay, I need help. I've just had a heart attack.
Can you help me?
Let me get their attention. So he starts to like run towards them and starts like calling out because he, wants them to help him. But when he starts calling and they see him, the headlights immediately turn off and the whistling stops. And then obviously this is in the dead of night, so he can't see them anymore. So he's like, right, I'm screwed. So he's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go back into my car. Yeah. Because I can't see them now because they turned all of their lights off and I can't hear them anymore.
And so I assume he can't shout because he's too weak.
Well, he was shouting at first, like calling at them, but they completely ignored him and they switched off the lights and kind of hid, like. Okay. So he goes back into his car, and eventually his car obviously runs out of fuel. Yeah. And battery or whatever. So he's like, gonna take his chance. Got not much to lose now. So he starts walking down the mountain, and he walks towards that area where he saw that headlights and stuff. And when he goes there, there's no people there anymore, but he sees a car, and it was a turquoise Mercury Montego. Oh. Yeah. So it's the exact car that Jack was driving. And
it was Jack's car?
Yeah.
Is that confirmed? Like, that's his reg? Yeah. It was, okay.
It's Jack's car in that. So, this is in Northern California in a national forest, and it's 2.5 hours away from Yuba County. And it's just, like, why is his car there? Yeah. Like, they have driven 2 hours in the wrong direction.
So, but Jack's the one that drove them to the basketball game.
Yeah, okay. He was really, really like protective of his car. Yeah. And they left with Jack. Like the parents can confirm. And so he's driven 2 hours in the wrong direction. And it's like you can't even get lost because obviously the snow would give it away. That by the way, we're not meant to be here. So anyway, the police obviously get called out and they go and look at this car. And in the car, heaps of unused wrappers, and there was like, so this car, it just had heaps of crap in it. Basically, it did match up to what they bought in that shop when they were last seen.
All the treats.
Yeah, all the treats. It was all like wrappers, empty milk cartons and stuff. So the guys had eaten everything. Yeah. And the car was at the snow line, so it was 1,000-meter elevation, and it was there was like 6 to 8 feet of snow around it, and there was like the car was like stuck in the snow. Yeah. So
because it's been there for a while then.
Yeah, but it was like when they did some like investigation, it was like it was stuck to the point where you couldn't drive. But if you went out and pushed it, it would have come out. It wasn't like in a ditch, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't like completely jammed in.
Yeah, because it's just it's new snow that's falling.
Yeah, like. And the car also had fuel in it as well, so it wasn't like they ran out of fuel or anything. And then there was 4 maps in the car as well, like very detailed maps of the area, and the mountains were also on that map. So it was almost like they knew where they were going, because the maps were like there, and it's not like the maps didn't have that area on them. And so the road...
By the way, sorry, stay in my head. Milk is such a strange purchase.
Some people drink milk.
Personal preference. Yeah, I know.
Like some people have milk with their dinner.
Yeah.
Like milk and pizza.
Yeah, I find that very strange. But
like a glass of milk. I think it's a childhood thing that like sticks with people.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I actually found that weird as well. Like, I never drink milk for obviously reasons, but anyway. So the road is not maintained here at all. It's barely used. Like, no one drives up these mountains really, apart from Joe. And it's like it's really rough to drive on. And so the police cars that were driving up there and the investigators that went up there, they had like heaps of damage underneath their cars. But the turquoise car, Jack's car, had no damage at all.
That's weird.
Like nothing at all under the car. And it was as if like someone who drove up there knew the road really well, to the point where they would avoid every single bump or every single pothole in the dead of night. Like they would know exactly how to drive up this road to make sure there's no damage. And like none of them had any connections on this mountain. Like Jack had never come up here before. He didn't even like the outdoors. He hated the cold. He never liked camping. Like why would he ever go on a mountain? So it was just really strange. It was just so rough to be able to like navigate that. And obviously the terrain here is so bad, and the search, it was just like some of the areas they couldn't even search because it was only accessible by horse. Like, it was just like they had helicopters coming, they had the forest rangers, they had dogs, and they spent 5 days searching, and then there was a snowstorm, and any tracks or anything, any leads that they had, it was all erased because of the snow. And then... So they found nothing. They couldn't find anything for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Until June. What happens in the summer?
Well, everything thaws out.
Yeah. The weather came to rescue them. Yeah, so the snow starts to melt, and the police get called from a group of motorcyclists. Around 20 miles from the car, they found a Forest Service trailer. I don't really know what a Forest Service trailer is.
Let's find out.
I guess I think it's like a shelter of some sort. I think it's like
a mobile home.
Yeah, because is it for like maybe mountaineers who want to take a break, or like maybe if someone gets lost, they have somewhere to go?
Forest Service trailer.
Yeah, Forest Service trailer. I think that's what it is, like to help people who are on, climbing or whatever.
Oh yeah, it's a mobile home. It's like a mobile home that people. I assume if like people are doing walks, like really long walks, they'll put these in like specific locations so people can stop if like they're doing multiple days.
You would think they would be easily visible though, but the fact that it wasn't seen until the snow thawed.
I mean, they do look kind of like they could blend in.
I guess, yeah.
Color-wise.
You would just think they would be a lot like more kind of obvious. But basically they never searched this place, and it was only motorcyclists who went out there in the summer. I guess they're kind of, when you go downhill on motorbikes because you're crazy. But so they go to this place, and one of the windows was broken, and when they get close they notice an absolutely terrible smell. And they go inside, and they find under 8 layers of bedding Ted's body. Ted, yeah, so the oldest one, and he was completely emaciated, so just like so thin. And he died. So it's so weird the way he was found. His trousers were rolled up to his knees, and his legs were covered in gangrene. And I'm not quite sure what gangrene is. Is it
It's
when
an
your
infection.
is it when tissues start to die?
Not necessarily, because you can have gangrene when you're alive.
Right.
So it can be. It's not good for your body. Like, it is an infection of the. I'm pretty sure it's an infection of the tissue. But I'm pretty sure you can treat it.
Right.
Let's find out.
It's when your skin goes black, isn't it? Like your skin is like really dark.
Yeah.
Because and then I think people can lose. Is it?
Serious condition where a loss of blood supply causes body tissue to die. There you go. Yeah. So, like, if you had hypothermia, I assume you would get gangrene. In the part frostbite. Sorry.
So he was
As
missing 5 of his toes because they'd fallen off because of frostbite. Yeah. So they could, based on how long his beard had grown.
Mm-hmm.
So I find this so interesting because they were like, when did he die?
Mm-hmm.
And they could determine how long he was alive for based on how long his beard grew. So it was said that he was alive in this little cabin for 8 to 13 weeks. When they couldn't, everyone was searching, he was like alive in this cabin. Mm-hmm. And the cause of death was freezing and starving to death, but they don't know which came first. Yeah, it's awful, isn't it? Yeah. But this is the weird thing. In this cabin, so obviously he froze to death or starved to death. But in this just outside the cabin, there was a propane tank for heating the trailer that was not used. Mm-hmm. There was also 31 cans of food that was opened and emptied.
What do you mean by emptied?
Like, where the food was not in there. Like, it was cans opened and there was no food in them. So either someone ate them or emptied them or something.
Okay.
And then there was a storage food container in there, right? That had enough food in it for all 5 of the guys, and it could feed them for an entire year. And none of the food was opened or touched.
Well, is it easy enough to find that?
Yeah, they're all there. Like, it's obviously you're right, where it's like supposed to be like a help station almost, and it's like it's canned food, where you don't need to cook it or anything. Yeah. I feel like it's, that spam. Is it spam?
Spam.
It just gave me that vibe because it's canned. And like he hadn't done anything to it. He just sat there watching them, And then, but there was signs that he wasn't there alone this whole time, because obviously the 31 cans that had been opened, someone's obviously opened them. There was also, one of the boys, remember the last boy, Gary, I told you about, who was the only one who didn't have a mental disability. So he, his shoes were in the cabin. Don't know why. And also there looked like, so when I said that he Ted was under some blankets, the blankets were like really neatly folded on top of him. So like, when you pull blanket on top of you, it's like, it's not like super neat. These blankets were like placed on top of Ted in a very obvious way. So they're it's kind of obvious that he wasn't the only one. Yeah. So they find Ted, and then 2 days later, around 4.5 miles away from this cabin, they find Jack, who was driving the car, and he also he's dead on the walk to the cabin, and then next to him is Will as well, who's also his remains are found as well. So these are remains, like it's been 4 months and it's just bones at this point, and they've been picked apart by animals. But like Bill has been like dragged by animals to like a kind of some sort of lake or something. Okay. But he's like, his body is like still intact to the point where he's got a watch on his wrist and he's got car keys in his pocket.
Yeah, but they're the only things that are metal.
Yeah, true.
An animal wouldn't eat that.
Exactly.
But yeah, okay.
Yeah, but it's like, and then, so Jack was determined to have died from hypothermia, and Will's cause of death is unknown, but I can imagine it's hypothermia as well. And they, it looked like they had died on the way to something. Like it was almost like they were on their way to the trailer and they just never quite made it because they were on a road, like in a kind of walking sort of situation. And then the last two left to be found are Jackie and Gary. So so Jackie, his dad comes out to search for him. And remember, Jackie's like the most kind of like the one that struggles the most, and he's also the youngest. So his dad was like really concerned, and he wanted to find his son. So he came out to search, and everybody was like, don't do this, like this is a rescue, like this is not a rescue anymore, this is like a recovery. So you really don't want to see whatever. But he was like determined, and when he was searching, he actually found Jackie's clothes on the road, and he went to pick up a jacket and a spine fell out of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Awful. And then Jackie's skull was found the next day. And he was a little bit out of the way from them. I feel like maybe he was alone. And so Jackie's found, and to this day, Gary is still missing.
Oh.
And the case is unsolved. Nobody knows what happened, why these boys went up there. These sightings as well, like the woman and the baby, like what's that about? And and Gary's never been found.
Yeah, when was the woman and the baby again?
So on the Friday night, when Joe had a heart attack, he saw at night the guys
with a woman and a baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around that same car. A lot of people call this the American Dyatlov Pass.
Oh. Googling. And I think...
research, kind of. You need some more information.
So,
no cheating here.
No. Looking into the types of animals in Northern California National Park. Right, actually, let's not start there. Let's start at the beginning. Okay? Let's take it back. So, the boys... go to the basketball game. This is my thought. So they go to the basketball game. That's for sure. We know that happened. So either what happens is somewhere around the basketball game is someone convinces them, because people with learning disabilities can be quite susceptible to like they're very innocent people. They take people at face value. They don't think that you're, like, as you said, one of them had to leave because they were being taken advantage of. Because they're very just like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. Like if you're nice,
described as so friendly and such kind, like, people and kind souls. I feel like because they see the best in everyone.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So they're like, if I'm this nice, everyone else, like, they just take assume that everyone else is nice. So someone could have taken advantage of them.
But they're all so high functioning.
And it's
like they've been tough. Some of them have been at the army, and one of them can drive. I feel like they are, like, I think it's some of them is just learning.
Yeah, but it could be the thing of like, oh, do you want to come to like a party? Like it could be something like that, and then like, oh, come on, and then you've got someone, like, I don't know, one of them, Gary, anyone, Ted, Jack, Will, could be any of them, being like, yeah, okay, let's go, come on, we can go and go for a minute, yeah, cool. Take them up to, they go up to the place in, it's miles away though, isn't it?
It's like 2 hours away.
Yeah, so okay.
And it's completely in the wrong direction as well. It's not like it's on their way.
I think they've made the decision that they're going to Northern California National Park. I think they know that they're going there. Whether if the car's there, they're driving there their own. Because my assumption is that thing doesn't fit anyone else in it. And if everyone's made it there, well, I suppose Gary hasn't, has he?
but his shoes have.
Okay, so then they've got there on their own fruition. So they're either following someone. Someone's asked them. They've gone there on their own fruition. Or I don't know what that word is, but you know what I mean. Then when they get there, so the reason I think that there's no scratches on the car is because I think, as you said, he's mad possessive over it. I think he just went so slowly. Because I've done that before, where I've just like there's holes near the garage that I go to, and the road to the garage is horrific. It's terrible. Like you'll break down going to the garage and then need the garage to fix you, and then on the way back out you'll smash your fucking bottom of something, and then
to be fair, the city we live in,
be required to do something.
It's awful roads here.
So you can
in general,
if you're going slow, and plus that time of night, no one's going to be behind you. You got lights on. You can probably go as slow as you want. So I think that's okay, because police will be like tanking it through there because it's not their car.
True. That's interesting, actually. Yeah.
So that's my thought on that point. So then I think the woman and this woman and baby that could have been seen, that were seen by Joe, that could potentially have been them, like her with that, like the person who invited them up there or told them to go there, and then whistling. They could have been doing something bad, like drugs, whatever. It could have been. I
kind of thought maybe he heard whistling because he had a heart attack.
When you said whistling, my first thought was wind.
Wind.
Because wind whistles.
True, but then why did the whistling stop? Right as they're. But then it was like, don't you think like your body was probably being strange because your heart?
Yes.
And also, how are you still like functioning?
It could be.
After like hours after a heart attack. Is that possible?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know.
Yeah. It's the severity of heart attack. It can depend. You can have a heart attack and not even know. But I think so. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. He could have been hallucinating, but the woman and baby bit, he could have been.
But then he goes down there and the car is there, and then the police come and the car is there where he saw all these people.
Which means the woman. So that's why I think that they came for a reason. Like someone came to them or someone did something and was like, "Oh, I'll come here." They're like, "Yeah, cool." Like it could have been a woman luring them out. It could have been, I don't know what it was, but they go there. And then they kind of get, they might even have like a rager or something in this cabin that everyone's in, and then they just get left. And then they are. I don't know how smart they are in terms of if you wake up and you don't know where you are and you might be miles away from your car, you might not be able to.
I think that's one of the reasons why this hasn't been solved. Is because nobody really knows how these boys would have reacted to a situation like this. And I feel like, I'll let you carry on and then I'll tell you what my theory is.
So, because I think, I don't know how they got there, but my thought is that, Gary's either gone, and they've just not found his remains yet, or or he felt he did something bad and he bolted, which I don't think he did either because he'd been found. So I think Gary's dead. I just don't think he's been found, because looking at I think with Ted, I think Ted got hit first. I think they must have hit it bang on like winter season. Which means that you probably can't get in or out really easily of things. It's probably freezing cold outside. They're probably not dressed. If they're going to a basketball game, they're not going to be dressed for the weather.
None of them were dressed for mountains.
Exactly.
And it was actually warmer 2 hours down than it was up there. So they were dressed for 2 hours below.
So they're gonna have issue anyway as soon as they leave that cabin. That cabin's probably again not equipped properly for that kind of scenario, because it's probably only meant to be used in better conditions.
Well, the cabin itself wasn't warm.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So it's like,
yeah.
even if they're in there, they're not having a good time.
So because I don't think they realised where the propane tank did.
Yeah, maybe they didn't know how to use it.
I wouldn't have known
No.
what was going on with that, because that's another thought. So I don't think they knew what that was doing. I think the guy Ted. He was just, I think he was just accepting fate, and he just slowly died, unfortunately, due to frostbite. The others he probably went first, because was he the oldest? Yeah, because him being the oldest, he probably went first, and then the other guys tried to maybe go out and forage to find help, or forage for food. Well, they wouldn't need to forage for food, so I think the empty tins are them having eaten.
Yeah,
but
it's a shame that they were so decomposed and they couldn't do an autopsy to check what was in their stomach and stuff. But you know how it said it was either hypothermia or starvation that Ted died of? Mm-hmm. It probably was hypothermia, because there was plenty of food.
Yeah, so he'll have died from hypothermia. He'll have others will have panicked, start going find places, and then as soon as you put yourself in the wilderness there, I looked it up, and you've got black bears, you've got cougars, you've got bobcats, you've got rattlesnakes, just to name a few.
Snakes rattlesnakes in the winter? Do they go around in winter? Snakes. I have never seen a snake in a winter condition. Not that I've ever seen any snakes, but in films and stuff, they're always in, I don't know, deserts.
Rattlesnakes in winter.
A rattlesnake. Oh god. Just always associate them with hot countries.
Yeah, they don't. So they don't hibernate. I don't think. It just says they take refuge.
Okay, but they would have come out by March, I'm sure.
And animal dens, but I mean, stuff like that. You've got
remember
bobcats.
That Ted was
cougars.
alive for something 8 to 13 weeks, which is far into spring.
Well, that's what I mean. But so all the boys will probably have been keeping him alive by feeding him and trying to make sure he's okay. Because if he's missing toes and stuff, they'll So they clearly don't know how to Well, I mean, they're obviously not going to know how to amputate something, but he'll have been. My thought is that somehow they got from the car to the cabin, whether that be they were coaxed there, and then the person who was there left them, and then they just got confused. They didn't know where they were, because how far was the cabin from the car?
About 20 miles.
Yeah, miles. So if you don't know in which direction you came, you're going to be so confused.
How did they walk? Why did they walk all?
That's what I mean. They were probably guided. This woman and the baby, as an example.
Who is she?
They could have been guided there. I don't think they were murdered, but I think the elements got them and the wildlife got them, because being when the guy with only a spine there, they'll have just been pecked at by vultures, whatever, birds, bobcats, cougars, whatever, rattlesnakes. By that point, you wouldn't even be able to tell if they were poisoned. So if a rattlesnake bit them, because if you get bitten by a rattlesnake, you've got hours, if that, to live. Yeah. So I think they all died of natural causes, but
exposure.
how they got up there is they were probably approached, because it also makes sense. The treats and they could have even planned it beforehand because of the maps. So the maps, they could have even been speaking to someone beforehand and been afterwards we're gonna go up.
Yeah, the thing is they're very sheltered people, and they didn't their parents knew everything about them. Do you think maybe they rebelled?
That's what I mean. Yeah. So less rebelled, but rebelled, but just being let's do something for ourselves, and it'll have just taken one person to orchestrate it and then convince the others, and they're that's why there's possibly a map in it, and then they've been speaking to someone who's after this, come here instead, or maybe they were let's go camping, and they were just speaking. They met a woman and a baby up there as well, spoke to them.
But what's with the hiding, the secrecy?
Well, because they could have been doing, I don't know, drugs or something. She could have given them drugs. Who knows? They could have got paranoid. They could have thought that they were going to get caught. They could have been oh shit, there's someone there. Oh, we're going to get caught. They're going to know that we're away from home. They're going to be looking for us. Let's be quiet. So that's another option. And all the treats make sense, because that's what you do when you're Like,
on a road trip, or we're going on a big road trip for 2 hours. Let's get heaps of snacks.
I mean, yeah. And you're like, yeah, you're just like, let's get all the snacks, treats, and that's why they wouldn't have prepared themselves very well.
They didn't leave Chico until 10 p.m. So they decided to take a road trip starting at 10 p.m. It's strange.
But again, you don't, if they're not very well, like, culture is probably the wrong word, but if they don't know about knowledgeable of what kind of differences there are between day and night, they could just have just said go for it.
Yeah. And
then just slowly made their way there. And so my thought, I don't think there was anything sinister in it, but I think the only sinister thing could be if they were coaxed out there. It's either they said they were going to take like a lad's trip and it just went horribly wrong, or if someone convinced them at some point to come out there, and then they died in that cabin. Because places like that, it's incredibly hard, as you said, for especially in winter, one, to get out there, and two, to find any type of evidence, because everything's covered in snow all the time. There's new snow laying all the time. It's like in Florida. They were doing a large search for, I mean, how topical this is at the time of release, don't know, but Brian Laundrie, he was found in a Florida national park, I believe. They've solved heaps of cold cases because during the search for him, they found a whole heap of stuff of other people. I'm sure it was his case. There's one case they were searching for someone in a national park, and they found heaps of others that they were just solved cold cases.
Did you know he was in a like a lake or a pond, and the only reason they found him was because the water level changed?
That's what I mean. Like, it's so
crazy. It's the same as here. The snow melted.
Yes.
And it's like, it doesn't matter if it's cold or hot. It's literally like in these. We were talking about this the other day. National park in America. These are like forests.
They're huge. They're miles and miles and miles.
Absolute
acres.
They are like probably the size of Scotland. And they call them a park.
Some of them probably are, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at America and how big it really is, it's crazy.
It's madness. But
yeah,
that's the thing. So that's my thought.
So do you think if this had happened? So obviously this is in the 1970s, and I said that investigations and stuff wasn't as advanced. But do you think if this happened today, we would have the same problem in terms of trying to solve it because of the weather, because of where it is and the snowstorms, or do you think it actually would have been easier if it had happened in the summer, in general?
No, I think in general, because your evidence gets lost. Because like, as an example, footprints, you can track footprints until fresh snow lays. Then you don't have those footprints anymore at all. They disappear. So
we had footprints in Dyatlov Pass, remember, because it was walking footprints and not running away. Oh,
because they're condensing them more.
Yeah, but remember we had that even in snow, but it was like very light snow over there because it was
But I think from the difference would be from between now and then is that they would have mobile phones.
Yeah.
So they would have the ability.
I mean, we saw it with Joe. He's like sitting there with no phone, because if he had a phone, he would have called someone.
Yeah, you would think that if that happened, like if the parents were that, if they were that like kind of homebodied, their parents would have Find My Phone. They'd be able to see them.
But would you even get signal in the mountains?
Yeah, but they would see them going off course.
Yeah, true.
And you just say, well, they're going the wrong way. And, I mean, to be fair, going into the mountains with this day and age technology, you probably would have a fair... no. Actually, you're probably right. They probably wouldn't. But you would be able to see at least close to where they last saw them. That's my thoughts.
I'm still, like, I can't stop thinking at the back of my mind about Gary. Like, the fact that he's the only one...
eaten.
Well,
fully.
The thing is, he's the only one who stands out a little bit from the rest of them. And it's worth noting that he was on medication for his schizophrenia every day. So he wouldn't have had that. He would have not had his medication for days.
Uh-huh.
And I just feel like there's a link. Like, why is he the only one who's not been found?
So pardon me. I see what you're saying, because he could have snapped and then gone.
Or not even,
and then,
maybe he started to like, hallucinate maybe
Yeah.
because of withdrawal.
But then-
because this medication I think is pretty like intense, and you would have bad withdrawal just stopping it cold turkey.
But we know that he's not killed Ted.
No,
And we know he's not killed Jack or Will.
Not so much as killed, but maybe it's the reason why they all ended up there.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
It could be.
maybe he, had like an episode or something.
Yeah.
It's so unfair though for me to say that, when he was like stable for like years and he was like completely like fine.
Yeah.
So it's just like a theory. It's not really like what I'm definitely, this is happening. Like this has happened.
But he could have, you are right, he could have, he's been on his medication, but soon, he's been out there we don't know how long he was out there before he disappeared. Like, if he's out there for days, then he's off his medication at some point.
He will have been off the medication the next day.
Yeah, but all the evidence seems to be that some people have died from frostbite or gangrene, or they maybe have been bitten by a rattlesnake. Whether that's possible in winter, I don't know. But yeah, the Jackie's closed spine and skull, it just all seems to lead to someone them being eaten by something, like an animal. But you are right, Gary could have. But I suppose if he's not. He could have disappeared. But you would have thought he'd have been... although again, it's 1978. So... I don't... So it's... Yeah, he actually could have disappeared. Yeah, that's a good... yeah.
I don't know.
I keep forgetting it's 1978 and they wouldn't be able to track him really, really fast.
No, I think he... I don't think he's alive anymore. But I don't think he succumbed to the elements. I actually do think he got away. I think he got away, and I think that.
But how without
lived.
shoes?
So I think he took Ted's shoes.
Oh, okay. Oh, because his toes were missing. Oh, okay. Wait, Ted didn't have shoes?
I don't know, but just because he didn't have toes. Maybe he took Ted's shoes and he was off.
Do we know what state Jack...
Or anybody else's
Will,
shoes. All these boys are
Yeah, but do we not know what Jack and Will and Jackie, they were found? Well, Jackie's clothes were found.
Yeah, I don't have any information
Jack
on
and Will.
I think their clothes were scattered, but there was
You could be right. You could have taken a whole heap of people's clothes, wrapped up really warm and gone for it.
I feel like he would have been full of adrenaline if he was having an episode, which would have warmed him up.
Yeah, to a point though, but if it's that cold, that won't last very long.
No.
And your body will think that it's still moving, however your fingers will fall off.
Yeah.
It won't, yeah.
But he probably, was the only one who could have probably maybe functioned that propane tank.
Yes, but the propane tank wasn't used.
No. So why? Maybe he'd left already. And and it was something that I missed out was that...
But I wouldn't have been, because I don't think I would have realised that a propane tank would have been, it was there. If I would, it would have taken me a very long time. If it was outside.
It was outside, yeah.
I'd have been inside looking for a switch that said, heating. Or something stupid.
Where's the radiator?
Yeah, I would have. I'd have been where's... Yeah.
What hot barbel?
Yeah. Boil the kettle, get some steam in here.
I think, so he was in the army.
Who was?
Gary. He'd been in the army. And the food cans that were all opened, I forgot to say that there was a can opener there that had been used to open
Yeah.
these cans. But the food can opener at the time was only ones that veterans used, and only ones that they knew how to use. It was like a weird.
It's one that
opener.
you do like a weird motion to like get it around the outside.
Yeah, it's like, and it would like him and the other boy, I think it was Jack, that had been in the army. Those two men were the only ones who knew how to use it.
But I think they were all there at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they were all there. I think they just all died off at different times. Like, because if you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a clue where you're going, you probably have no way of navigating yourself forwards and backwards. Like, if you put me or us, any of us, in the middle of a forest, if you put us blindfolded in the middle of a forest,
No.
and said, okay, go walk 20 miles in this direction and then come back, or go walk 2 miles in this direction and come back, you're not going to you're in a park that's a lot bigger than that area.
I mean, I got lost when I came out for a walk with you.
Exactly.
So.
That's what, but it's almost impossible. So it's so easy to get lost in those situations when you have
in the dark as well. It just and like even, and obviously it took them a while to like, you know, die. But even during the day, because new snow lands and the whole thing looks different. You know, like
you could go around like you can, and like it's great unless you're marking your way in some way, shape, or form. You're not going to find your way back. Your balance is going to be it's going to be an awful time.
While it's absolutely freezing the whole time.
Which will mess with your mind anyway. So it's going to be impossible to suss it. So I think they have all died of some sort of natural causes. Gary could have bolted for it, but again, how far is he making it? When you've got like, you've got, as I said, bears, cougars, bobcats, rattlesnakes, all that fun.
What's
like
a bobcat?
A bobcat is
a cat that's Bob.
Yeah, a cat named Bob. No, it's like a
Robert the cat.
I don't know how aggressive they are, but they're like.
Oh, oh my god, they're so
medium-sized
cute.
cat. Yeah.
It's like.
They look like they'll mess you up.
They look like a leopard.
But the thing, like, if like they would maul you though, so you'd be able to tell can a bobcat hurt you? Oh, shy and avoid people rarely.
Well, bobcat's gonna be a friend. They're like
okay,
dingoes.
That's not terrible. Yeah.
Dingoes are the same.
But I'm sure a cougar can eat.
Cougars would, yeah. A cougar's like a black cat, like a black what's it called, like a tiger. Cougar is a puma's different.
But I'm sure there's heaps of little animals, like even if they died of hypothermia, that'll just take them. But if you come across a black bear is going to defend itself, stuff like that. But
no, isn't black bears are like the type of animal that don't need to be provoked?
No, they do.
Do they?
Yeah, the black bear is
like if you run away, they do come after you for like no reason.
That's brown. Pretty sure it's a brown bear. No, a black bear is like fairly like okay, but
is that right?
if it needs to defend itself, it will. If it's provoked, it'll mess you up.
Just doubt any of them were provoking. But if brown bear,
it might think that that's the point. Like the fear, like that coming in, it might just think that it's being provoked.
Well, I guess so. So your theory is just a summary of it.
I just think they all succumbed to the wilderness, but I don't know how they got there. Is the thing is where did they plan on like a lad's trip up there, like just like again, that's what the map thing seems to me like they kind of did have a plan of it, but because they're so inexperienced with how to plan things. They might have just said, all we need is a map and treats. Let's get map, let's get sweets, let's get stuff like a sleepover. Let's make it like a sleepover.
So they kind of got shocked when...
And then they get to the place and they're like, oh shit. But how they get themselves from the car to a shelter, or they go into the woods, they get lost in the woods and then they come across this shelter and then, they survive there for as long as they can. That's another option. But I think... it's how they get to the place is the interesting bit. I think it's either that or they're coerced by someone, the woman and baby thing's a bit odd, but I still think that either she's just like was in passing and she was speaking to them. I don't think it was a. That's probably that could be where the whistling came from. That like them having an actual like having a conversation and stuff. I don't really know, but I think that the wilderness got all of them.
Yeah,
That's
I think so too. I just couldn't get the whole like Gary not being there out of my mind. But
a lot of people disappear in national parks.
Yeah.
And parks in America, like a lot. You'd be surprised.
Brian Laundrie nearly did.
Well, yeah. Right, hang on. Let me tell you how many people get. How many people?
I still like. They should not be called parks. Like park is like literally anything in the UK called a park. It's like a little bit of green grass.
So in national parks, there's 60 unresolved missing persons cases.
60.
Yeah.
There'll be like murders and stuff that they've not found the body because people hide them in national parks, and it's just so hard to find.
So it's just I think it's natural causes, but how they got there is a bit suspect. It's whether they decided to go there themselves or someone convinced them during their time away to go up there with them. Although 2 hours is like the problem is with the coercion thing is that you can easily move, like you could easily be like, you could say, oh yeah, we'll come with you, but as soon as you're in the car with just the 5 of you, you could just be like, let's just turn around and go, let's just run. So I think they went there of their own free will.
It's so heartbreaking because I do actually agree that maybe they thought it would be so much fun, and then reality hits and they realize they're actually in big trouble, and it's just so sad that they didn't manage to get out of that situation. Especially because they, didn't like the outdoors and they, they liked being home and their comforts. It's just like...
Maybe that's what it was. So it was like trying to conquer there.
It's more sad than like people actually... there's like mountaineers who live and breathe, doing all this stuff.
Aware of the risk
and they can still get lost, but it's like they know what they're doing.
They signed up for it.
Yeah, whereas these guys just... and it's so sad. But I do agree. I feel like the mystery is why they went up there. I don't think we'll ever know. We'll never find out. But what actually happened to them, I don't think it was suspicious.
No, I don't think it's I don't think it's a murder.
Okay, well that was a good theory. I think you've solved it.
The most confident we've been so far. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Please drop a follow, subscribe, like, comment. Your own theories.
Share us.
Yes. Tell your friends. And next week, apparently, rumour has it, we've got a more...
Up to date. I thought I would spice it up a bit. Wow. Mara Murray was 2000s, but early 2000s.
Is this a later 2000s?
That's a later one. It's 2010s, I think. Yeah. Better be. I hope it is.
Exciting.
It's a bit of a later one. But I was going around the world at the start, and now I'm just in America.
Well,
next week's also in America. Yeah. New York.
Yeah, well, if you've got any places or mysteries that you want to request, please let us know, and we will, you will.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you the story.
Give me the story.
Alex will solve this mystery that's been on your mind.
Solve this case. I should get myself a uniform.
Yeah.
For these things.
Get yourself a magnifier.
I should get myself an inspector uniform. We should actually do that. We should get ourselves uniforms. Right.
For Halloween.
Yes. Anyway, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.